Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the spoilers that came out over the last day. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I will go for some that, jumped out at me or were talked about a lot on MTG Twitter and all of MTG social media. So let's go. The first card is Rundvelt Horde Master, which is a 2-mana Goblin Warrior that's a 1/1. Other goblins you control get +1/+1, and then whenever Runevelt Horde Master or another goblin you control dies, you exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin creature card, you may cast that card until the end of your next turn. This card, I don't know if it's going to see play in Standard, right? Because I don't know if there's even going to be a lot of goblins. But in more eternal formats, this card's going to be incredible. And I know, like, a lot of people are only thinking about this through a standard lens because, that's where new sets go. But this new cards go. But this is going to be fantastic in older formats. I just have this card. It's going to go particularly well with Skirk Prospector, which can sacrifice a goblin to add 1 red mana. So with Rundvelt Horde Master out and Skirk Prospector, you can sacrifice goblins for different things, and you're not only adding mana, you're basically drawing a card. And so you just get to explode out of nowhere. It is it's just incredible. Now, again, whether that's going to be good enough in Standard, who knows? And the same thing maybe with, like, Explorer or Alchemy. I don't know. But it's definitely going to be really, really good in historic goblins for MTG Arena players. But in, legacy goblins or what other goblin formats there are, it's going to be incredible. So this card is very, very exciting for those people and for people just like tribal goblins anyway. So that's great. Lovely. Let's move on to we have 3 mythic artifacts here. So first we have the Weatherlight Completed, which is a 2/2 artifact creature or artifact vehicle. That's a 5/5. And it doesn't have crew, which is important. So it's a flying 5/5 artifact that, as long as Weatherlight Completed has 4 or more Phyresis counters, it's a Phyrexian creature in addition to its other types. And how it gets Phyresis counters is whenever a creature you control dies, you put that counter on it, and then you draw a card if it has 7 or more counters on it. If it doesn't, scry 1. So what this card basically does, it is an artifact that does nothing until a creature dies. When you have the first 6 times a creature dies, you only scry once, and then after that, you're going to be drawing cards whenever a creature you control dies. And at 4 counters, so in between the time where you're scrying and drawing, it becomes a 5/5 creature with flying. So this has been getting a lot of buzz, but right now, I'm not sure I love it. So it seems really, really slow. In a lot of the decks that sacrifice a lot of creatures, right, you want to do something that has an immediate impact on the board. And this, it doesn't give you card advantage, and it doesn't give you a threat until after you're doing a lot of other things. So one of the problems with cards like this, right, is that, let's say, unlike Cult Anvil, which is the black-red Kamigawa card that, creates 1/1s and can sacrifice them to drain your opponent. That card does stuff the turn it enters the battlefield. Weatherlight Completed, if you already have your engine going and you're able to sacrifice a lot of things, that's great. This card is going to be good. But as your pieces are coming together, it seems really, really underwhelming. And it's also important to note that because it becomes a creature at 4 counters, but you only start drawing cards once it has 7 or more counters, there's the 3 triggers, right, where it's a creature that your opponent can then easily kill it with, any type of removal and stop you from drawing cards. So it's going to be a little harder to maybe get a lot of card advantage out of this as what people would want. You do get to scry up to a certain point, but I don't know, this card, I think we have to see more of the format, but in standard, at least, I doubt it's going to be that great of a card. You know, if you don't have a cat oven as well type, you know, thing going on, it makes sacrificing creatures a lot harder and a lot less reliable. Now, again, I brought up Oni Colt Anvil as a card this could work well with, but you'd rather just have Oni Colt Anvil, you know? And so, I don't know. There's something about it which I'm sure this will be fine. And again, it's something that maybe will be one or two of. I'm not saying it's unplayable, right? But I'm a lot less high on this card than other people are. Now, in my fun, like, historic brawl decks, yes, I'm going to love this card, by the way. But another mythic artifact from this set is Karn Silax, which is a 3-mana legendary artifact that enters the battlefield tapped. So players can't pay life to cast spells or to activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So I don't even know what that really stops in, like, a lot of arena formats that are very relevant. I know in Paper Magic it stops fetch lands from activating, which is really, really relevant. It also kind of stops Phyrexian mana cards and a bunch of little, like, minute things here and there, but nothing that really sticks out to me as being particularly relevant. What a lot of people are looking forward to is its third ability, where you pay X and tap it, and exile Karn Silax to destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less. You can activate it only as a sorcery. This card is very reminiscent of, let me see if I can find it, Pernicious Deed is a card from Apocalypse, which is also took place on Dominaria and very reminiscent of. So this was an enchantment that entered the battlefield, and you can pay X to destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment when converted mana cost X or less. And while it's very similar to that, Karn Silax having to wait a turn to do anything, I don't know. This card does not seem fantastic to me at all. It's like very, very underwhelming. I don't know. There's something about it where, I don't know. Maybe other people can enlighten me, because everyone that I've seen seems to be really, really high on this card, and it's just not it for me. And I could be very, very wrong, but it just seems way too slow. I think maybe as a one of, potentially, but there seems to be like you could be a lot more proactive and do a lot more things with it. And it entering the battlefield tapped and you having to wait a full turn cycle just seems a little slow. But I don't know, could be wrong. Who knows? But we're gonna go. Speaking of entering the battlefield tapped, we have the final card I'm going to talk about today, which is Timeless Lotus, a 5-mana legendary artifact that enters the battlefield tapped, and it can tap to add white, blue, black, red, and green mana to your mana pool. Again, this card is cute. It's cool. I don't know if it's going to be particularly good. Again, like the Karn Silax, entering the battlefield tapped is just such a huge downside. And for decks that want to use this and, like, use it to ramp and stuff, it just seems like it's more cute than practical. Though I will say, with, I believe this Teferi is still in standard, right? Wait, we'll find it, don't worry. Teferi, who slows the sunset. And this card, you know, you can play this on turn 4, then on turn 5, cast Timeless Lotus, and untap it with Teferi, who slows the sunset. And that might be a good enough use of it with the cards we see now. I'm not entirely sure or positive that that is something we're going to be wanting to do with our mana and that we'll have time to do in standard. We don't know. Again, with a new set and a new rotation happening very, very soon, Standard's going to look very, very, very different. And in the previous uh video, there were a lot of really good mono black cards, right? And with Liliana the Veil having hand disruption, there's just a lot that it's hard to think about what standard might look like. And these type of dirtily cards that, generate a lot of mana and value if everything goes right and your opponent isn't interacting with you or putting pressure on you. I don't know. I don't know. But I would love to be wrong. I would love for this card to be good because I love this type of effect. I think it's really, really cool. But as we saw previously in a very recent standard with Nyx Lotus and other similar cards, usually they're just too slow and not really good enough at a higher level of competitive play to make a real impact. And then finally, there isn't really anything else that, really struck out at me if I can find anything. There's a lot of really cool limited cards. I'm actually Stronghold Arena is something too that I kind of like. So this is an enchantment for 2 mana that enters the battlefield. You gain 3 life for each time it was kicked, and it can be kicked for green and white. But whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. If you do, you lose life equal to its mana value. And one of the cool things about this is if you have a 1-drop, so there's the 2/1 skeleton that we talked about that you can do for 1 mana, and on turn 1 and then attack with it with Stronghold Arena, you can start drawing a lot of cards, and in a very aggressive deck with low mana value cards so you're not losing a lot of life from it, it could be good enough. This card does pique my interest, and so I would like to play with it, but it looks like mono black is going to be doing a lot of cool things, so we'll see how that shapes up. But other than that, let's see if I say other than that and find another card I want to talk about. No, not really right now. But of course, Standard is going to get a really big shakeup. Lots of cards will change in context and what's good and what's not, and that's always very, very, very exciting. And yeah, so I hope you like talking about this video. I'm very, very happy for Rune Vault Horde Master. This is the card I'm most excited about. I love playing goblins. I love tribal stuff, so this makes me very, very happy. If there were any other cards that you are interested in, let me know. And if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Great ways to support this channel and me. You can also watch me stream live at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon wherever you are. Bye.